As far as the season goes, on paper it was certainly our most successful season, and it was interesting. Looking back at it, we set our expectations so high that it took a while to appreciate what the boys really accomplished. Because from the opening day of preseason, our goal was to make the national tournament and not be that typical NEAC team that settles for, let's just make the tournament and end our run there. So we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know what we could accomplish. But we certainly set the bar pretty high for ourselves. And, as the season wore on and we stacked up more and more wins, it just felt like something great could happen. And certainly the win against Kings, being able to host an NCAA game and beat a good, solid opponent like Kings, was very gratifying. But I think actually the most gratifying moment might have been our loss to Messiah. Just playing a team of that caliber and proving to ourselves that certainly they were the better team on the day, but showing ourselves how close we are to really being able to compete at that level, I think gave us a lot of motivation going forward and actually a lot of satisfaction to end on. Most teams that make the tournament, anybody who makes a tournament, there's only going to be one winner at the end of it. So there were 63 other teams that ended on a loss, and if we had to end on a loss, going out to Messiah the way that we did, was a fine way to close the book on the season. Well, that's a good question. When I took the position, the first thing that I knew, and that a lot of our coaches know here at Morrisville, is that we have the ability to be successful here at Morrisville. We're in a conference that we felt we could compete in. We felt we weren't competing in it, but we knew it was a possibility. As our facilities continued to improve with the stadium being built and having, for us, a field team, having the rec center, and then, lastly, the fitness center at that time at least being a project that was being discussed, we felt like there were some pieces to at least attract student athletes and better student athletes. So my assistant coaching staff and I, we really laid out a plan of what we thought it would take. And, it's interesting. I've never went back and actually looked at, how close we were to following that path, because we really took it one step at a time, and we also took it in stride. The first thing was, telling our current players that changes were going to be made, and at least introducing them to what the new culture was going to be. So we got rid of some players that didn't really bring to the table what we were looking for in players. And then the search began to find new players. And it was a mix of finding better players, but also just finding high-character kids. And at the beginning, we joke all the time, our team that went to the tournament in 2012 was not the most talented group. So when you looked at all those other factors of what we looked for in recruits, that's who carried us at first. It was the hardworking, high-character kid, the selfless acts that went on, and that's honestly where we began to build the program. Then once we found that success, then even higher caliber players wanted to at least consider Morrisville. So I think we started by just A, cleaning house, B, just finding high character kids that we thought would represent us well, and then slowly every year just trying to find a little bit better and a little bit better, getting deeper, getting better each year, but trying not to forget who we were, which was a team that's built on hard work and camaraderie. And at the beginning of this season, it took us a while to find that chemistry with some of the incoming players. But at the end of the day, when I look at the difference between August and November, the biggest change we made as a soccer team was those underclassmen understanding what we were all about. And I think that's why we found the success in the conference tournament and a little bit of success in the national tournament. It actually fell back to when we maybe weren't quite as talented, just leaving it out on the field for anybody. I actually talked to our two assistant coaches about how to treat the off season, and one thing that I don't know if it's the right formula for success or not. We try to not take ourselves too seriously. We try to just appreciate the situation we're in and winning. So I don't think we'll change too much in the off season, which really our off season consists of the guys getting into the gym a little bit as a group, and then our 15 practices. And I've always questioned whether we're really focused in the non-traditional season, but at the same time we have a lot of fun because it's nice to be able to go into practices and just be able to be a family instead of having to worry about who are we playing next and the X's and O's. So our non-traditional season, I've actually went back and forth as a coach. Are we too relaxed? But obviously it's work. So we get the work done, and our focus is typically on fitness and conditioning. But when it comes down to training, fortunately, we're going to be returning a good portion of the team. So, but that doesn't change. We try not to address too many tactical things in the spring season because we've got a fresh group coming in the fall, which is one of the reasons that we've never gotten too specific. We're running hopefully the same system we ran this year. So last year we had to change the system of play, so there was a lot more learning curve. So I think we'll just go out there, have some fun, hopefully wait till the snow melts a little bit, and really it'll be focused on just getting the guys set to the tone of what they need to do over the summer, and then working on some of the things we learned against like Kings and Messiah about what it's going to take to really compete. Our schedule next year, our first 3 games are no joke, so we're going to have to be prepared as fall comes. Oh, you would ask that question. So I'm going to go with the birth of my first daughter, followed closely by beating Kings in the first round of the NCAA tournament. I mean, as a young professional, you have personal and professional goals. And, my personal goals were to start a family, and, Delaney brought that to the table. And from a professional standpoint, I have always dreamed about being in the national tournament and winning games in the national tournament. When I was a college player, we were in an unfortunate situation that our conference did not have an automatic qualifier, so I played on very successful teams who never had the opportunity to play in the national tournament. And I tell my players that all the time, just how fortunate you are, and we may never do this again. That's what I was telling them. In your lifespan, we may never do this again as a college soccer player, so enjoy it. And then certainly Delaney was life-changing as well, and then followed up by Quinn. And, it's just, they were both great moments. And I just try to meld the two. I mean, as you've seen, Steve, my family, my kids are around the program all the time. Our players are around them. So, that's just another interesting piece. But Delaney first, King second. I'm going to go the English Premier League because it doesn't have a lot of English players that are good in it. I personally think EPL is probably the most popular. As far as the best, I think top to bottom it's still the English Premier League. The Bundesliga, certainly their top teams, Bayern Munich, the success that they found of late, and Barcelona. But top to bottom, I'm going to go with the EPL. But the interesting thing is when you look at the EPL, the players that you see making the headlines typically aren't English-born players. So, it's the most followed league. Maybe that's why people see it as the best. But top to bottom, I still think I think the best teams right now are in the Bundesliga and La Liga, but top to bottom, it's still got to be the EPL.